Welcome, curious minds and passionate seekers of truth, to another journey into the depths of history. We hope you are all doing wonderfully. Today, we're embarking on a profound and critical exploration of the very foundation upon which early Islamic history was built. Let us bravely ask, how reliable is the knowledge that has been passed down to us regarding the dawn of Islam and the Prophet Muhammad? This pivotal question leads us directly to a single historical figure, a single book, and essentially one overarching narrative, the biography written by Ibn Ishaq. Stick around as we critically examine this narrative, which became the bedrock for almost all subsequent biographies and accounts of the Prophet's life. To truly understand our history, we must analyze this narrative and its vulnerabilities, especially since many who call themselves scholars and historians rely entirely on a document that has no surviving original physical copy. It all traces back to Ibn Ishaq, a historical figure whose very existence and credibility have been subjected to intense scrutiny. The official Islamic narrative, largely formulated in the Abbasid era, tells us that Islam began in Mecca as a divine revelation delivered by the angel Gabriel to Muhammad, a man from the Hashemite branch of the Quraysh tribe. The narrative details his early life, being orphaned at a young age, raised by his uncle Abu Talib, working in trade, and marrying Khadijah. It also mentions he was nursed in the desert by Halima al-Sa'diyah. After receiving revelation at the age of 40 and sharing his experience with his wife and her cousin Waraka bin Nawfal, he began to publicly preach his message. However, when we look closer, this official Abbasid narrative displays significant inconsistencies. There's considerable ambiguity surrounding the exact date of the Prophet's birth, and very few verified details about his childhood are known. The deepest and most comprehensive knowledge we have about his life comes primarily from Ibn Ishaq. But here lies the greatest challenge: the timeline. Ibn Ishaq wrote the first biography of the messenger in Baghdad around the year 750 AD, which means the Prophet's biography was documented roughly 118 years after his supposed death in 632 AD. According to Islamic tradition, Ibn Ishaq was the grandson of a Christian captive from Iraq. He compiled his book based on oral traditions that had been passed down from tongue to time over many decades. Due to this long chain of oral transmission, these stories became entangled with political ambitions, sectarian conflicts, and personal biases, leading to inevitable additions and omissions. This massive delay in documentation opens the door wide to fabrication and distortion. The problem magnifies when we realize that there are absolutely no original texts that can be definitively attributed to Ibn Ishaq himself. Instead, his original book is entirely lost, and what reached us are mere fragments preserved by later historians like Ibn Hisham, who died in 833 AD, and al-Tabari, who wrote 200 years later. This severe lack of archaeological evidence and the heavy reliance on late books suggests that much of what has been recorded may belong more to the realm of folklore and myth than to verified historical fact. When we examine specific stories, such as the narrative of Muhammad's prophethood, certain suspicions arise. The tales of his journey to the Levant, his encounter with the monk Bahira, and the quotations from Jewish texts seem carefully constructed to achieve a predetermined goal, establishing Muhammad as the undisputed prophet. It appears that early narrators effectively manufactured the perfect setting for his mission, depicting Mecca as entirely pagan and the prophet as illiterate, deliberately to preempt any potential criticism. One of the most striking examples is the story of the first revelation. The narrative describes Muhammad as being completely terrified by the sudden appearance of Gabriel, to the point of contemplating suicide out of sheer panic. He returns trembling to his wife Khadija, finding reassurance only when Waraka bin Nawfal confirms his prophetic status. This account is highly unusual. Historically, prophets are depicted as being filled with profound peace and joy upon encountering divine messengers, rather than paralyzing terror. Even more puzzling is the fact that this crucial story is narrated by Aisha, who, according to Islamic tradition, had not even been born when the revelation occurred. Logic dictates that the most reliable account should have come from Khadija or Abu Bakr, who were present during those early days. Furthermore, the Prophet married Aisha when he was 53 years old. It challenges reason to believe he would recount to his young wife a story that portrays him in a state of extreme weakness, ignorance, and suicidal despair. This narrative simply does not align with the typical framework of establishing prophetic authority. It becomes clear that Ibn Ishaq's biography was not merely a neutral recording of events. As various studies indicate, it strongly reflects the political agenda of the Abbasids and their claim to the caliphate. Ibn Ishaq wrote his biography in Baghdad under the direct supervision of the Caliph al-Mansur, a ruler whose own historical existence lacks concrete physical evidence. The Abbasids derived their name from al-Abbas, the Prophet's uncle, elevating the Hashemite lineage to legitimize their rule. Thus, the biography was written generations later from a distinctly one-sided perspective. Specialized studies, such as those by Patricia Crone, describe Ibn Ishaq's work as riddled with inconsistencies, chaos, and bizarre tales. While some scholars argue that Ibn Ishaq's work remains the most authentic compared to later texts, the criticism leveled against him by his own contemporaries was brutal. Prominent Islamic figures, including Malik bin Anas and Hisham bin Urwa, fiercely criticized Ibn Ishaq, stripping him of reliability. Malik accused him of having Shiite leanings, fabricating stories, and being a liar and a deceiver. He was accused of inventing poetry, forging genealogies, and relying on dubious tales from Jewish converts to flesh out his dramatic narratives. Malik was even reported to have boasted about driving Ibn Ishaq out of Medina. Ibn Ishaq seemed less concerned with historical accuracy and more focused on building a compelling, dramatic epic to explain ambiguous Quranic texts. When Western Orientalist Montgomery Watt translated the biography in the 19th century, he questioned the historical authenticity of Muhammad's character as portrayed, noting the mythical elements and literary constructs embedded within the text. Later historians, like Ibn Hisham, attempted to sanitize the narrative, removing some of the more unbelievable miracles to give the biography a more rational historical veneer. Ultimately, the vast majority of early Islamic literature suffers from a heavy reliance on oral traditions documented centuries after the fact. This immense delay, compounded by the fierce political struggles between the Umayyads and Hashemites, resulted in a chaotic and often contradictory historical record. When the simple act of recording a single idea took years, one must question the credibility of entire volumes written about people who lived 2 centuries prior with no material trace left behind. The biography we have today is a tapestry woven from fragmented poems, isolated stories, and political fabrications, a historical tragedy whose echoes we still witness today in the extreme behaviors of certain groups. As we bring this deep dive to a close, we want to express our deepest gratitude for your time and keen attention to this critical research. Uncovering these layers of history is a monumental task, and we simply cannot continue this journey without your incredible support. If you found value in today's exploration and believe in the importance of spreading reasoned, critical thought, please consider becoming a channel member. Your membership is the fundamental pillar that allows us to enhance our research and share it on a wider scale. For those who are able, utilizing the Super Thanks feature is also a wonderful way to support the content. And of course, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our upcoming episodes. We also invite you to share your own valuable insights and questions in the comment section below so we can keep this enlightening conversation going. Until we meet again for another fascinating exploration, thank you all.